Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Building Your Financial Planning Career Pathways and Opportunities. My name is Radia, and I lead marketing here at the Canadian Securities Institute. I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar, where we're speaking with industry expert Ryan Laverty, who is a professor at the School of Accounting and Financial Services at Seneca College and a multi-designation holder here at CSI. Also joining us is Assunta Tutino, CSI's Associate Director of Client Services. Today, we'll be discussing the financial planning career pathways and roles, essential skills to have in the market, and how to distinguish yourself in a competitive job market. Before we begin, we just have a few housekeeping items. The ratings, financial analysis, projections, and other observations constituting part of the information contained herein are and must be construed solely as statements of opinion and not statements of fact or recommendations to purchase, sell, or hold any securities. We strongly recommend you speak with a qualified financial advisor regarding your own unique circumstances. And we ask that no one record this webinar without Moody's explicit written permission. Lastly, no one has permission to quote any of the comments made or questions asked by the webinar audience. Today's webinar is being recorded, and all members of the audience are currently on mute. If you do have a question, we encourage you to please type it into the Q&A, and we ask that you please keep your questions as generic as possible and avoid revealing any personal or client-specific information. Now let's get started with the webinar. Ryan and Assunta, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have a great session today. I'd love to start by talking about what makes a financial services career a rewarding choice for young professionals in Canada by highlighting a few of the key features before we jump into the discussion. If we'd like to go to the next slide. As we're going to discuss in a few moments, there are several unique and diverse roles across the industry that often begin in banking but continue across adjacent industries like insurance, fintech, and investments. So there's essentially a path for every interest. Canada's financial sector is also stable and consistently invites new entrants to the industry where they can grow their career through employee training and development. And Canadian credentials are also recognized internationally, which opens doors to those who are looking to work abroad and explore more opportunities in other parts of the world. There's also the setup of professionals to tackle real-world challenges, working in a dynamic industry in this environment in Canada. And since we're known for our strong regulations and global credibility, this serves financial services professionals exceptionally well. With clear steps to entry and guidance from education providers like CSI, entering a career in financial planning with confidence is possible and sustainable through various programs and ongoing support from employers throughout a person's career. So I'd love to jump in, Ryan, and sort of start at the beginning to help people better understand what entry-level opportunities are available for students who are looking to start working in the industry. Could you help us understand that a little bit better?
Yeah, definitely, Radia. Thanks very much. And it's great to be here with everyone today. So yeah, there's a multitude of entry-level opportunities in the financial services industry for students, new graduates, or really anyone getting into the field for the first time. The most number of jobs that are likely out there are probably in the kind of customer service or financial service representative space. These often are found in either banks or credit union branches, often in banking, investment, credit, or insurance call centers. These roles might have some different names depending on the company or the organization that is offering them. They range from things like a bank teller or a customer experience associate, perhaps a personal banker or financial consultant as well. And then you also may have names like a banking, an investment, a credit, or an insurance specialist. And so I think, those are the main roles that are probably there in terms of entry level. And as you can see on the slide, going from one of those roles, you can grow your career into other roles like financial advisor, financial planner, planning consultant or account manager and the like. So yeah, that's really, I think, where the main entry level roles are right now in the industry.
Great.
So yeah, I think one of the things that I'd like to chat about today is that, many employers are looking for transferable skills. And often to help you set yourself apart from other individuals that are out there, completing courses like the IFC or the Investment Funds in Canada course or the CSC, the Canadian Securities course, is a great starting point. It will help diversify your skills and build some of those transferable skills that can move into help you move into the industry. Um, Completing these courses, though, isn't just about gaining that knowledge and those skill sets. It's really about showcasing to the employer that you are not just here for a job, but really focusing on a career. Employers are going to spend a lot of time and effort and money in training you once they employ you, and so they're going to want to hope that they're going to get some return on investment from doing that. And by showcasing to them that you are interested and looking to be in this industry long term, and by doing so, you can take one of the CSI's courses here, or one of the pathways that you see on screen. That's going to signal to the employer that you're here for the long term. And I think, getting any sort of credentialing is a great idea. I've started talking about the IFC and the CSC courses, but you can see that there's advanced credentialing in personal banking, financial planning, investment portfolio and wealth management, and estate and trust management. So as Radia said, there's a pathway for wherever your passion is. But getting these advanced credentials, I think, can really accelerate your growth in industry beyond those entry-level roles, because it will set you apart from others, but it's going to allow you to build depth and breadth across your knowledge and your skill sets. I once had a manager who told me that climbing the corporate ladder was like building a tower, or a tower of blocks. You could build it straight up, but eventually that tower and your career is going to topple. He said that the more depth and breadth that you have in your tower, the higher that you can build it. And similarly, the more depth and breadth that you have within the industry, the more steady your career is going to be, and the higher you're going to be able to get with an employer. He told me there's a reason why we build big buildings down and out before we build them. Just build them up, excuse me, just like there's a reason that tree roots go down and out before the tree grows up. That foundational structure that has that depth and breadth is what provides the support and stability for that building or for that tree. And we're similar with our careers. If we can build depth and breadth by getting certifications and then building our experience in industry, we're going to find that our careers are going to be a lot more likely to have upward advancement, and it's going to allow us to really sway with the winds of change that might push us against in our careers as well, because we'll have that foundation. So as you see on the screen, whether you're interested in that personal banking, financial planning, the wealth management or estate and trust management route, there's a certification here that's going to help you achieve the depth and breadth that will help you advance in your career.
That's really great. Thanks so much, Ryan, for expanding on that for us and sort of helping us understand the opportunities across credentials as well, and having that foundation. Do you think there's any specific steps for students that they can take during their undergrad years or while they're in college that could sort of prepare them to get ready for the financial services industry?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first step is to really research the roles that you're interested in pursuing. Look for job postings. They might be on corporate websites, they might be on LinkedIn or job posting sites or things like that. Take a look at those job postings and look at the education, the skills, and the certifications that employers want the ideal candidate to have. Second, I would say you want to take that information and then start to plan out what your career might look like, where you want to go in your career, not just that entry-level role, but beyond. And then look at the courses and certifications that are going to help you cultivate those skill sets and set you apart from the crowd. Assunta is going to show you in a few moments a tool that can help you identify what courses and certifications to pursue. But before she does, I'll make another point here that it's really important that I think while you're doing your post-secondary education or before you even get into the industry, that you make sure you update your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Ensure your experience section doesn't simply show the responsibilities you've had in previous roles. Instead, highlight what you achieved in your roles. For example, did you consistently exceed your targets? Did you save your previous employer money? Did you maybe achieve perfect customer experience scores? Whatever that result is, you want to quantify it and you want to share it on your resume and your LinkedIn profile because results are what matter to employers. They know that the people who have achieved strong results in one role are likely to do it in another. And not necessarily because, people can do that without easily trying, but because they know that those people are going to tap into their resilience and their skill sets to find ways to be successful again if they were to hire them. Fourth, I would say that you want to clean up your social media profiles. We live in a public world these days, and as an employee, you're a representative of an organization. So employers are very protective of their reputation these days, and if there's one wrong move by them or by an employee, the consequences can be very costly, into the millions of dollars. So they want to hire individuals who are going to represent them really well. So make sure that your social media accounts show you in the best light. And then finally, practice those interview skills, specifically your communication skills. Being able to communicate is essential to you getting hired, achieving success in any of the roles, and moving up in the organization. So practice communicating what your value is and what you can do for the employer. That's going to help you shine through in an interview. When I was a hiring manager at a bank, I could tell within about 2 or 3 minutes whether I was going to hire an individual just by having a conversation with them. Because if that person could have a conversation with me, then I knew they could have a conversation with clients or with their colleagues. And that's really how things get done, that people communicate and work together. So, I think if you can do those 5 things, you'll be setting yourself in a good spot to hopefully get into the industry.
That's really great. Thanks, Ryan. I like how you're throwing your personal experience in there and reminding us that so much of what we do in our regular personal life and our work life are skills that we can transfer, whether it's our ability to communicate correctly or just sort of have that go-getter attitude and how that's applicable across the board. It's so important. And I think when we're looking to enter an industry, sometimes we just get hyper fixated on what we think the job qualifications are, and those transferable skills are really important. Asinta, I want to throw it to you now to sort of, excuse me, help us understand how the career map works at CSI. It's such an important tool that we're always equipping people with to better understand the various career paths that they can take, and we'd love to learn more about it from you.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So before we begin exploring the CSI career roadmap, please consider where you see yourself. Researching a potential role and understanding your fit are important steps in the process. So researching the role, as Ryan mentioned earlier, is really, really important. That's why CSI created the career roadmap. It's where we dive deeper in what the role consists of. Today, what we're going to do is I'm going to focus directly on the retail banking, but each 3 pillars here, you can dive deeper. Today, I'm going to navigate to the retail banking to show you how you can use this tool to your advantage. So when we click on the retail banking section, if you can, next slide, please. It will spread out into 3 sections. So we have transactional, advice, and management supervisory. When we say research a role, is where do you see your fit? What is your past experiences? What would you like to do? So when we say working for a financial institution or any in advice roles, is where is your best fit in there? So while clicking on each one of these, it's going to guide you in where you see yourselves in. What's your core responsibilities? I'll show you your earning potential and industry opportunities. We always say research 80% of the time. So if we click on transactional, it will show you any role in transactional. If we click on advice, it will show you advice giving. If we click on management or supervisory, it will give you that. So where do you see yourself? Next slide, please. So I want to work for a bank. So what in the bank is all these different roles that we have? So sometimes when we think of a bank, we always think of the brick and mortar when we walk into the retail banking section is, in between, if you look at our career roadmap, there's also another slide there that shows all the potentials of all the banking roles that are available. So sometimes your role in banking will not be linear. Like I may start as a mortgage specialist, I may go to an estate trust administration, and then I'll probably end up as a financial advisor. But the beauty of the banking world is that you can do any one of these roles. And our career roadmap dives deep in each of the roles. So it's going to give you the recommended courses that you require in each and single role, as well as any university or college degree that you have. Next slide, please. So if you're looking here, oh, can you just go to the slide before? Yeah, so if I said before, I was listed in the small business banking. So let's say I clicked on this one here, bring me to the next slide. It will give you the small business banker, what the role consists of, all the job listing that there is, what the earning potential, what courses are required, what are your responsibilities. So if you see yourself in that role, or you've had prior experience, or it's something that you wish to pursue, then you can continue with it. But then again, you can look at what is a financial advisor role. It will give you the same details. Our marketing team at CSI, it worked very hard on this tool. It's because we want you to spend a lot of time saying, where's my fit? Where do I see myself in my career in financial services? Because there's so many offers, there's so many opportunities that you can have, and this tool will help you navigate through it all. So and then again, I invite you very much to visit the CSI.ca career map and take your time and go through each role, and it'll give you all the earning potentials that you can have.
Sorry, I was having trouble with my mute button there.
Yeah.
And the next couple of questions are for both of you. So maybe we could sort of do this in a complementary way. So exploring the career map is obviously very, very helpful for people. It's really like the best way to understand what you can do with the various credentials and which pathways you can go down. And our next questions are more around like the ways that students can hone their skills, sort of going back to what you were saying earlier, Ryan, to sort of help fulfill job requirements. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit more. And then Assunta, maybe you could help complement that by giving us more context around what employers tend to be looking for in the FI space. So Ryan, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Red. Yeah, so as I've already mentioned previously, pursuing those courses and certifications that are going to give you knowledge and skills and the abilities that employers are looking for, I think is a great starting point. I do think that, outside of that, you can also get involved in networking. The old adage of network as much as you can is really important. It's never too early to start networking. Often people think, when I'm looking for a role, I'm trying to get into the industry, that networking is the way to do it. But networking is really focused on building relationships in the here and now, with the thought or the hope that in the future, that's when, the job opportunities may come. So starting early is really important because you're going to want to build those relationships and get to know people in your network and build your network out. As an employer or someone who's hired previously, I would often look to my network and say, are there any people out there who I know who know people? Because I would rather hire someone that I know about or that I know of, or is coming from a trusted source than perhaps someone that I don't know anything about. So definitely expand that network and build those relationships so that when a role does come up, I think it's one of those things that you want to be the top of mind for your network to say, I'm going to refer you for this particular role that my friend has or that my colleague has available. I often hear about, catch-22 that people face where they say, I need experience to get a job, but how do I get experience if I don't have a job? And I think, one of the things that you can do is build those skill sets and build that experience outside of the working world. Taking on additional projects, doing volunteer work, participating in industry competitions, or even attending workshops and conferences. I think you can gain skill sets in all of those types of experiences. And of course, as part of that network during those sessions. You know, it reminds me of an individual who I once hired. She was a single mom. She'd been out of the workforce for about 10 years. She had just went through a bit of a messy divorce. And she was coming back into the working world and was looking to kind of change things up with respect to where she worked before. And so she wanted to join the financial services industry. And I remember her coming to the interview and telling me a little bit about herself. And then she was also able to explain her transferable skill set. She talked to me about, you know, if she could manage or handle three young children while going through that less than amicable divorce with her partner, you know, she could handle multiple priorities at once. She could handle difficult clients, and she could definitely handle stressful situations. And all of those were experiences or skill sets that I was looking for in the role that we were hiring. So again, she did a great job on kind of looking outside of her employment history and saying, where else in my life did I build skill sets, or where else have I grown as a person? And then was able to communicate that very effectively to me. So I think if you can do that, and all of these options that you see on the screen, you know, I think the opportunity to build skills are everywhere. It's just about really zoning in and saying, what am I looking for? What type of skill set am I looking to build? And then, of course, finding the opportunity for it. And then, of course, being able to communicate it in an effective way to say, I get that it was not in the financial services industry, but it's completely transferable. In fact, I deal with the same type of situations that you may deal with in the financial services industry. So I think that's, you know, some of the ways that students might be able to hone their skills to fulfill those job requirements and speak about it during interviews.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. And then Asunta, given that you work so closely liaising with clients and you're very much aware of what they're looking for from a credentials perspective when they're hiring people, I gather you also are very aware of what they're looking for from people when they're entering into a new role outside of just the credentials. Can you speak to us a little bit more about what those elements may be that people can focus on?
Yes, certainly. So when I'm dealing with, with the financial service industry leaders, so what they're looking for in their candidates are these communication skills, these skills that we have here on the screens. And why is it so important when you're looking at the communication skills? Those active listening skills. When a client comes into a branch or into your wealth management space or into your work, they want to be heard and they want to be able that you're there to communicate with them. So acting listening, paying close attention to clients' needs and concerns, that is the key thing that the leaders are looking for. So, and then you want clear articulation. So when you're speaking to a client, to speak clearly to them, to speak in everyday language to them. Sometimes in the banking world, when you start working, there's a lot of jargons or there's a lot of acronyms being used, right? So I remember when I was working for a financial institution, we would call the home equity line of credit, the acronym would be HELOC, and then we would be speaking to our clients, do you want a HELOC, right? So it's like, being very clear when you speak to a client so they understand. Don't forget you're working there in the financial institution, you're in your bubble, in your world, but the client is not in that world. So they want to see how can you clearly communicate with this customer as well. Nonverbal communication, so awareness of your body language, eye contact, posture. These are things that the leaders are looking for when you're interviewing even with them. How well are you talking to them? Are you keeping that eye contact with them? Are you getting your point across to them? So this is something they're going to be looking at as well. Empathy. This is a very important skill to have. Understanding and relating to clients' emotions and perspective fosters stronger relationships. Remember, clients come into a financial institution. Sometimes they're having a bad day, or sometimes they're experiencing a loss. How do we handle that situation? Or how do we give news of a declined loan? You'll have to have that empathy skill inside of you as well. And also the, confidence, when you're communicating information, you have to be confident in what you're saying. And if you don't clearly understand something, how do I go get that so I can clearly communicate with a customer? So when we're looking at all these skills, it's very important that you have that. The next skill that they're always going to be looking at is adaptability. I have a problem pronouncing that word. So in financial services, you must be able to pivot quickly, right? There's no one day that's the same. I remember being as a branch manager one day. I had my agenda. I knew exactly what I needed to do each hour. I had a full day, but something can come up in the middle of the day, something that was unexpected. How well are you being able to pivot? How may we adapt to a situation? Remember, in financials, when you're working for financial services, it's not every day is a new day. It's not, it's not sometimes it's not a standard day. Things happen during a day. So they're looking how well is that person able to adapt. So they're also looking for emotional intelligence. In financial services, emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in building trust and rapport with clients. They come in, and how do you resolve that conflict with them? Are you going to be able to stay calm, empathetic? So that's what they're going to look for. So it also supports your teamwork with amongst your peers, among your teammates, with your manager. So that's a, remember, you're working with the public, you're working with, different departments, different lines of businesses. So as a hiring manager, they're going to look at how is this person going to have that emotional intelligence within an environment of a fast-paced, non-controllable environment. How are they going to handle it? This is what they're looking for. Teamwork and collaboration. So that's something else that they're looking for in every candidate that comes through their door. You never work alone in a financial institution. You're always a team. So when there's looking is, so if something happens, somebody calls in sick, somebody's not there. How do we, working with different departments, working with different lines of businesses, how do you collaborate with them? So those are the types of questions a hiring manager and the people in the lines of business are looking for. They're going to be asking those questions. How well can this person work within a team environment, and how can they collaborate within their peers? Are you able to open in meetings and respecting each team member's contribution? So there's a lot of meetings that are going to be held. They're going to ask for your feedback. They're going to ask you for campaign ideas. How well can you communicate that? And then how can you provide and receive constructive feedback? You're constantly going to get feedback in this industry, in the financial services. One, because you're working with the public. So there's always something that's going to come up. How your reaction to it. You might get positive feedback. You might get next steps, always something to work on. So you have to be able to get that feedback in a way that's both positive. And how to resolving conflicts through discussions and compromise and maintain a positive team environment. Things can get hectic in the financial service industry, right? There's going to be, there's noise coming in. There's going to be an irate customer coming in, or maybe some good news. How are you going to be, how can you resolve that conflict? How do you stay calm, right? And how to do, how do you deliver some news that a paper, customer's not going to want? So these are the types of questions they're going to ask you in an interview. And then, bring your past experiences in there. And remember, when I was talking about the career roadmap, where do you see your fit in all those scenarios and all those, job opportunities? Where do you see yourself, and where does your character fit in the best? Because it's very important that you study is where do you see and what career do you want? And in banking, it's constantly pivoting, constantly rotating. You have to be adaptable. You got to, it's an environment that's both fulfilling, but it's also, very challenging at times as well. They're looking for analytical thinking. So this is one thing about and critical thinking. In financial services involves the ability to break down complex problems, interpret data, and make informed decisions. I'm going to give you an example. Analyzing financial statements. Earlier in our career roadmap, we talked about that small business advisor. Well, you have to be able to, analyze financial statements, assess the client's creditworthiness before approving a loan. Another scenario could be identifying trends and patterns in markets, data to recommend investment strategies. Reviewing historical client transactions to detect potential fraud or unusual activity. That all involves analytical thinking. In the banking world, you are using this every day. So I can be approving a loan in 1 minute, then I'm going to be looking at an investment, or I'm going to be interpreting the ins and out of an account and make sure there's no financial potential fraud activities happening. So your mind is constantly working uh, on all these points that we're mentioning earlier. And the most important thing that they're going to be looking at in an interview is leadership potentials. So any managers and VP in financial services recognizes strong leadership potentials in employees by observing several key behavior and traits. What I was looking for when I was hiring as well, who demonstrate initiative. We want somebody to demonstrate initiative. We're not always going to be there to tell you what to do. You're going to have to know what to do sometimes or how to react. You're trained, and sometimes you're going to have to make that decision. So how do you make it? How do you demonstrate leadership? Constantly take new responsibility and proactively seek solutions to problems. Problems will occur, and it's okay to ask for help. But sometimes, how do you're going to be able to handle this yourself? Sometimes the manager is not going to be in-house. So are you able to take those decisions? And employees who communicate effectively. We cannot stress the importance of the communication, of communicating clearly, communicating with empathy, communicating with your teamwork. That's what they're going to be looking for in your leadership, for their potential leadership. Because in banking, it's a great career progression, and it's always they're always looking for the future managers and VPs. And another thing in banking, you'll never stop learning. In financial service industry, continuous learning. So, at one point I was saying, how many more courses do we have to take? You're going to have to take more courses. So enjoy the learning. And it's actually a great experience, because with every course, every learning, the economy changes, clients' expectations change. We're going to be looking at, regulatory changes that happen. You're going to have to be on top of it all the time. It's not like a career that's stagnant. It's progressive. It's not linear. So in every position that you do, you're going to have to learn a new skill. And this keeps us, so be curious, don't take it as say, I don't want to learn anymore. Take it as an advantage of you're constantly learning and keeping up with the latest trends. And they're going to be looking at in the candidate, are they willing to continue to learn? We're learning every day. So this is what I can just relate to you, the importance of these skills. Thank you.
That's really helpful, Asinta. Thank you so much. This conversation has been very insightful, and I would imagine quite helpful for those attending today who are interested in learning more about getting into the industry. And hopefully there's lots of takeaways here to sort of figure out what works for people in terms of credentials, where they fit, exploring the career map, and also taking a closer look at their own skill sets and where they excel right now and how those skills can be transferable. I'd love to move into the Q&A portion. We've got some interesting questions from the audience. Some of these are fairly common questions that we tend to clear up every once in a while. Some of them are a little bit more complex, but I think we could sort of bounce between both yourself and Ryan and address a couple of them. So to begin, and maybe Ryan, you'd like to take this one. Is it possible to enter the financial services industry without a degree? And if so, what additional steps can help strengthen someone's candidacy?
Yeah, great question. Yes, you can enter the industry without a degree. Many of the people I've worked with in the industry don't have a degree, or if they do have a degree or a diploma, it's not in business or finance. They come from varied backgrounds. There are some changes that are coming through in parts of the industry where a degree may be helpful and may allow you to advance in your career. But there are also opportunities to not have the degree and be able to move up in your career through years of experience and meet the same type of requirements. So a degree can help advance you more quickly, but it is not absolutely necessary.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Ryan. And maybe a follow-up to that is, do you think there are any specific programs or majors that provide a competitive edge for launching a career in financial services? I suppose this could apply to a person just like that maybe doesn't have a traditional degree, but is looking to sort of involve themselves in some schooling before entering.
Yeah, the only one that I would think of is, if it's a financial planning or financial services focused type of program, that may give you the knowledge and skill sets. But outside of that, again, as I've talked about, there's so many transferable skills that are so important in the industry that, I think having any sort of educational background is helpful, as well as, doing courses and certifications like we've talked about. So I don't think that there's one specific program that people should focus on in order to get into the industry. And as I say, I've worked with people, some people come from differing backgrounds, science, geography, health services, there's all sorts of areas they come from and they bring those transferable skills. So, what I always say to people is find what your passion is, and follow that route. But the beauty of the industry is that you can take all of those things that you've learned in whatever program you've taken and completed, and apply them with transferable skills into the financial services industry.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And Asinta, sort of going back to what you were discussing, and sort of sharing around various opportunities and exploring the career map, with so many options across banking, insurance, fintech, investments, how can people best determine which area of finance aligns best with their skills and interests? Do you think that there's a particular exercise that maybe they could do to sort of get a feel for it, or is there research they could do? Like, how would you best advise someone to, as you said, like figure out where they fit?
I can't stress the importance, right, of looking where your fit is. So I always say spend 80% of your time researching a role or researching, an environment where you see yourself. Right. So, so what I give advice, and a lot of people ask me, and the advice I give them is, go to the career roadmap, look at all the different, roles that are available, then dive deeper, go into find a mentor in there, speak to banks, find a trusted advisor, speak to your professors, or look at this, is this a fit for me? Look in every, look at the paragraph that explains what the role entails. So do I have the credentials for this role? Is it something I wish to pursue? So 80%, I'm going to say, is researching the roles. Go to banks. They usually have career fairs. This is the best time and opportunity for you to meet the leaders and ask those questions. I would sit many times with university students and college students. They would ask, "Can I have a coffee with you, Asinta? I have 15 minutes of your time," and discuss the banking world, or the wealth management world, or the small business, or the fintech world. How can and this is where you sit there and you look at your transferable skills. What did I do in the past? Where do I see myself? What I would like to pursue, and then find people in that milieu and spend time with them in those networking events through LinkedIn, through this, because we spend so many times researching, when you want to buy a car, you spend so much time researching, the different models, but we don't spend any time researching on a career option, right? So, or researching where our fit is. So you can spend, time and energy and money on courses later to find out that that's not my fit. Right. So this is where we say that, in the vast world of financial services, so many opportunities. Take the time and really analyze where you see yourself. That's the best advice I can give, and this is this is where it should be always your start point.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I think the whole idea of, getting to sit down with people in various positions and literally like asking them to walk you through a day in the life of them in their career, or even just getting the lowdown on them from like their memories of when they first started in a particular entry level role that you might be thinking about, and sort of getting a better understanding of what that feels like and the type of sort of tasks that were entailed in what they did, and how much they were customer facing, and how they grew into, you know, wherever they are now. I think speaking to seasoned professionals who can give you like
That's right.
a holistic view is really, really great. That's really, really great advice. And I think um, nothing can really replace personal experience, no matter how much research we do. I think hearing from the horse's mouth is the best. So that's a really, really great insight. I think the next question I'll put out to both of you and to get both of your perspectives would be great. Asunta, to what you said a little bit earlier about regulatory shifts and changes in the environment in financial services, and the fact that it's such a dynamic industry and there is quite a bit to keep up with, whether it's from a regulatory perspective or just like, you know, the way clients are changing and shifting, and with so much access to technology, people are now looking for advice online, and maybe that sort of changes the role for the advisor and things like that. What do you find is the most important way for young professionals to stay ready and to stay relevant and to be in the know about things like this?
Continuous learning. So what I said earlier, what continuous learning, right? There is so many changes in the industry and regulatory changes, and you have to be up to speed. And not only that, there's a lot of, let's talk about influencers now, right? This is something that we are developing and we hear a lot about. And as if we're looking at an advisor right now that somebody's heard through, you know, you Instagram or Facebook, about all these, where marketing and these investment opportunities come from. Uh, as an advisor, we'll take an example. You have to be aware of what's out there, right? I always told my employees is, you have to know what's in your house, whatever financial institution or wealth management or wherever you work for, what's in your house, but you got to know what's out there in the world, because these customers come into the branches or they come and see you, and they heard it from a friend of a friend, or from a show on TV or something. So you got to be aware of constantly what's out there. A lot of financial institutions, will have access to Bloomberg reports. They'll have access to anything out there, so their employees, would be up to speed on any financial trends that are happening. When you are constantly working with the public, you have to know what's out there. You got to read the paper, watch the news. You got to, you have to be, listen to financial reports. Sometimes in institutions, there's a 10-minute report that's given out every morning, so people can be up to date on that. For myself, I am constantly the eyes and ears of CSI. I have to know what's out there. I have to know what the trends are happening. What are they worried about? What are they looking for? What is the next steps? So anybody that you have to constantly be on high alert on what's happening. That's the advice I can give you right now.
And Ryan, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would second what Asinta has said. The newspapers, are a good place to start. Going on the internet, searching up, different topics that you might have heard about. I have a couple of newsletters that I subscribe to. I get a daily one from each of them, and I can choose what topics I want. So I have, the financial planning field is one, wealth management is another. And so those send me information that if I'm not aware of it, I soon become aware of different things that are happening in the industry, and then I can certainly look into it further. I think with respect to keeping up to date, I think it's going to pay dividends for you if you can do that, because it is you'll be on the cutting edge, and you'll be able to have discussions with people in the industry or with clients, and how the industry is looking at making sure clients are protected more, and how different things are working for different people in the industry. So yeah, the more information that you can get access to, the better. I think though you're going to want to make sure, because there is so much information out there, that you're going to want to get, maybe 3 to 5 really credible sources and make
I was
that
just
kind of
gonna
your
say that.
portfolio of news, so to speak, and then just go from there and keep up to date as best you can. And of course, as you take more courses, if you are taking courses with reputable firms, their material is going to be updated as things become more prevalent. For example, there was a time where we talked about asset allocation only being, cash, fixed income, and equities, and now we're looking into alternative investments. So,
Hmm.
different courses that are out there, like CSC and things like that, are bringing these newer topics in to make sure that people are educated about them. So the more continuous learning, as Asanta said, that you're doing, the more knowledgeable you'll be and the more up to date you'll be.
I just want to stress one point, and it's the industry
Mhm.
trends, right? Customers are going to be coming in, clients are going to be coming in with what they hear on, through their friends or through other channels of social media. So you got to be aware of this. It's very important that don't always believe what you see and hear, so be cautious out there. I know that the regulators pull out bulletins all the times, so you got to be aware. Customers are constantly getting, you know, uh, they're getting loss of money. Money's being put into these scam artists. So you got to be aware of everything. Customers will ask questions like that. So that's what we mean by constantly being aware of the industry and what's happening out there.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you both. Um, and then we have like two more questions. This one is a little interesting because we did talk about, building meaningful connections with people and getting a taste of, what a day in the life of is like across a variety of roles to get a better understanding of where you might fit. But sometimes I think when you're looking to enter an industry or you're in the beginning of your career, it can be hard to sort of locate those opportunities for mentorship or talking. And so do you think that there's anything in particular that motivates experienced professionals to actually mentor newcomers, as opposed to being the other way around, where newcomers are sort of searching for that type of advice? And how can those who are just starting out sort of make the most of those opportunities? Like, is there anything in particular that a seasoned professional is sort of more inclined to sort of participate in from a mentorship opportunity perspective that would help guide new entrants versus the other way around?
Yeah, I
To
would
undergrad.
say, I think one of the great things about the financial services industry is it is a profession and industry around helping others, at its core. And so, the majority of people that are in the industry are probably already in that mindset of helping others. And so when someone approaches you, you will often do your best to help them in what way you can. I do find that, when people do show genuine interest in what you do, and they're expressing themselves in a genuine way rather than making it feel like a sales call or a copy and paste into LinkedIn, and they're just trying to get as many people as they can to have meetings with. When I feel that genuine interest from someone, definitely, I'm willing to go the extra mile with them. The other thing, I think a lot of people in the industry remember what it's like trying to get into the industry as well, right? So they know it's not always an easy thing to do, to reach out to someone and say, hey, can I ask you about your role, or could we have a coffee, like Jacinta was saying with the coffee chats. So where they can make the time, I think most people are saying, yeah, I will do it because that's the type of person I am. It's the type of industry I'm in, and ultimately I remember what it's like. But yeah, I think, the only other side I could see from, just asking is, networking is really about that relationship building. So if there's something you can find that you are connected to that person in a different way outside of the industry, you're going to be able to build that relationship a little bit easier. And if there's something you can do to help out that individual. So, if they're the experienced individual and, you can bring a new thought to them or, some other sort of benefit to them, then they're going to feel like they need to reciprocate to you because as social beings, humans always feel we need to reciprocate, particularly when someone gives us something, we feel like we have to give something back. And so it's a great thing that if you can come and give me a benefit in some form or fashion, I'll say, yeah, I'll spend 10 or 15 minutes with you. I heard one the other day that was really good. And it was often people will chat about, hey, can we go for the coffee chat? But what you really want to do is stand out from other people. And so don't ask for a coffee chat. Ask for going for a milkshake or something like that, because there's my benefit. If I really want something different or it brings a smile to my day or makes me remember you, all of a sudden I'm going to be like, yeah, I'll give you those 10 or 15 minutes you want. And if you're buying me a milkshake, sure, why not? So just something different that I learned just recently, actually, myself from a colleague. That's how they got into the industry as well.
That's so interesting and heartening. That actually put a smile on my face. I think I would definitely be up to mentoring someone who wants to buy me a milkshake, especially. So that's really good advice. I think we often get into like just the traditional ways of networking, and it's nice to sort of think outside the box. So we're going to wrap up soon, but we do have one question that's specifically about credentials. And I think you both could speak to this, but Assunta, if you wanted to start. In a globalized financial industry, we have talked about how the CSI credentials are recognized around the world. How do you think holding a Canadian financial credential impacts career growth and credibility on the international stage? Like, do you find that people often are able to go and expand their careers beyond, the jobs that they've held in Canada with the credentials they have? Do you think that there is a unique or strategic advantages that Canadian credentials hold?
I do. And the reason I say that is that I also take care of the Caribbean markets for CSI, and the Canadian credentials are highly recognized in there because the Canadian banks are highly regulated, and it's something that's looked all over the world of looking the regulations that we put in, the importance we put on credentials, the importance we put on continuous learning, how the training of banking employees are here in Canada. It's highly respected, throughout the world. So our courses are top rated. We have some subject matter experts that are industry leaders in that work on that on the courses. So it's it's a CSI credential on their wall or CSI taken. It's something that's sought after. I remember walking to a financial institution, and it was really fun to say, but I have two quick stories. So we were looking at one financial institution. We're familiar with CSI, and I was saying, "Well, I'm from CSI. This is what we do." And they're saying, "I'm not familiar with that." I go, "Well, it's funny you say that because I just see a CSI certificate on your wall." So they never made a connection that the CSI people and visibility of the importance of that credential, and it was something that it's sought after. When I was in St. Lucia a couple of years ago, and we're talking about the credentials of Canadian Securities Institute, again highly respected of the quality of the education, of the regulation that we put through the regulators here in Canada, how important it is, how the protection around the customer is, the integrity of the advisor, how it's important here, the rules that we put into place. So I can say from experience that globally they are recognized and well respected. Our credentials.
Great.
It's not
That's really good
easy
to know.
working in Canada, right? It's highly regulated, so
Yes.
that's respected, right?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Well, this was such a great event. Thank you both so much for all of your input and your insights and your perspectives and answering those questions. I think those were some really, really great questions and wonderful answers. we'd like to thank everybody for joining today's webinar. And if you'd like to, share your stories and your experiences to LinkedIn, we'd love to hear what you thought. If you have any additional questions, you can reach out to support.csi.ca, and a replay of this event will be available. So we will be sending that to attendees and those who registered in the coming days if you'd like to gather any more insights or share with friends and family. So thank you so much, everybody, for attending. We really, really are so glad you could come.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.